house woke before the ticket gates were wide, with straw dust in the rafters high, and October kept inside. She came along the iron rail with apples in a pail. Her sleeves rolled back, her step so soft it hardly touched the scale. The younger ones were restless there, they swung their trunks for more. Their chains rang once against the posts, their shadows crossed the floor. But in the farthest corner stall, where morning entered late, the old one stood and waited still beside the wooden gate. Half an apple later, when the noise had passed, she saved the sweetest broken piece and gave the old one last. Half an apple later, no crowd, no call, no claim, only one hand remembering who answered to a name. The keeper checked the water trough, then brushed the rope aside. A school bell rang beyond the park, the city stretched outside. She split one apple with her thumb, where age had made it brown, then held it up with patient palm and never hurried down. The old one took it carefully, as if the world were thin. Her great gray head bent lower there and trusted what was in. No one was there to photograph, no child was there to see, only straw and iron hooks and one small courtesy. Half an apple later, soft beneath the rind, was not enough to fill the day, but more than being kind. Half an apple later, the house grew still and wide, and all that morning seemed to lean toward what she set aside. Some faith is made of larger things, of vows and bells and art, but some is kept in pails at dawn and carried part by part. The world may feed the young and bright and praise the quick parade, yet love is often what remains when something small is saved. The gate swung open, footsteps came, the children filled the sun, and in the corner, chewing slow, the old one kept that one. The town had shut its porches down. The courthouse gave one chime, and in the little exchange room the cords hung still as twine. She sat before the switchboard wall with cotton at her wrist, a pencil by the message pad, her coffee gone to mist. The moths kept tapping at the shade, the fan turned slow and wide, and every sleeping house outside had wires at its side. Then one red lamp began to wink above the doctor's name. She lifted up the answering cord before the second flame. A woman's voice came thin with fear from 4 miles past the mill, and all the room around the board grew suddenly more still. Hold the line, hold the line. Nothing more than waiting there between one voice and time. Hold the line, small duty plain and true. Yet in her hands the darkened town had one way through. The doctor's bell rang twice, then 3, then stopped beneath the floor. She tried his sister's boarding room, then tried the back drugstore. No panic crossed her steady face, no word was spent too fast. She only looped the cloth-bound cord and made the silence last. The farmhouse breathed against her ear. A child coughed once, then cried. She said, "He's coming, keep the lamp," and set the jack beside. Outside the gravel road lay black, the moon was nearly gone, but still she kept that little light from being left alone. No one would see the way she sat with one hand near the board, or how a common copper thread could carry mercy toward. Some rooms are small enough to miss, some work leaves little sign, but life may hang for half a breath on who will hold the line. Hold the line, hold the line, till wheels are heard beyond the bridge, till fear has crossed its time. Hold the line, not bell nor hymn nor flame, only a woman keeping still beside a blinking name. At dawn the doctor called her back. The child had found his sleep. She wrote one note, then cleared the cord and let the morning keep.
ink had turned the windows white, the benches shone with cold, and every scarf along the rail was red or blue or gold. You stood behind the rental shelf with skates in numbered pairs, a pencil through your auburn hair, a mitten on the chair.
The children crossed the rubber mats with ankles stiff and proud. Their mothers called above the band, the bright brass music loud.
One little boy came limping back, his left foot pulled too sore. You knelt beside the wooden bench and said,
"One loop looser."
You did not laugh at how he frowned or hurry him along.
You eased the lace beneath your thumb
until the tight felt wrong.
One loop looser, that was all you gave.
Room enough for one small foot
to learn how to be brave.
One loop looser,
I watched him find the floor
and thought how gently care can hold
by holding not so hard.
A girl spun twice and caught the rail,
A whistle clipped the air
the coca cups went paper thin
with steam above the stair.
You rubbed the blade with flannel once,
Then checked the buckle pin
and sent him toward the silver ink
to try the turn again.
He fell before the second post,
Then rose without a cry,
you only raised your hand a bit,
as if to tell him why.
My own skates waited by the door, the leather cracked and worn,
But I stayed near the counter still
to watch the afternoon.
The band began a slower tune.
The lamps came on in rows
You tied another careful bow
and warmed your fingers close. One loop looser,
Nothing grand or wise,
only space enough for pain
to leave a pair of eyes.
One loop looser,
The knot was still secure,
yet something in the way you tied
made winter less unsure.
Years may take the rink away,
The heater, rails and song,
the rented skates with painted marks,
the mittens left too long,
but not the lesson of your hands.
plain as a working rule.
What wishes to go farther must not be fastened cruel. One loop looser,
Softly at the start,
you gave the boy his balance back
and never called it art.
One loop looser,
I see it now and then,
the kindest hold in all the world.
let someone move again. Below, the druggist draws the shade. The stair smells faint of snow. Upstairs, the little signal lamps begin their evening glow. The wet galoshes by the stove leave commas on the floor. 3 folded slips lie face side down beside the wicket door. You sit before the walnut board with chords in black and red, one sleeve turned back above the wrist, one pencil at the ledge. The county bells come thin and quick. You answer without haste and fit one shining plug to one as neatly as to lace. I came to ask for Dexter 5, a simple call, no more. But heard you say, go on, she's there, and close the booth door. A mother from the Ridge Road line, a grocer by the square, someone whose voice kept breaking up because the snow was there. You held the circuit breathing soft while all the shops below went dark one after one along the street under the snow. The line stayed open, the line stayed open. Past the hour, the druggist turned his window shade, till every far-off halting word found the ear for which it stirred, and no one had to leave the night half made. The line stayed open, the line stayed open. There are hands that carry parcels, there are hands that hem and mend, there are hands that keep a wire from breaking at the end. You never heard the whole of it, you never asked to know, yet something in the way you waited taught the voices how to go. The line stayed open, the line stayed open, long enough for one last yes and one more county name. And when at last you drew the cord, the room was only wood and board. But I had seen how kindness works without a sign or flame. The line stayed open, the line stayed open. You wound the falling chords in loops, set both receivers down. The snow kept whitening at the curb, the clock hands crossed the town. I never placed my call that night, I stood until you rose, and all the way home every wire seemed humming through the snow.
studio front was locked by then. The portraits faced the wall, and underneath the red room lamp the shadows did not fall. You stood beside the chemical trays with water at your wrist, the negatives clipped over string, the air all sharp and still. A family came that afternoon, 3 children, coats and rain. The youngest would not hold his chin, the father smiled in vain. Now one small print lay silver pale, their faces nearly gone, and you leaned closer to the tray as if it could hold on. The timer clicked beside the glass, the sink gave one low sound. You did not lift the paper yet, you let the light stay bound. Hold it in the fixer, not too long, not too soon. Let the faces find their way beneath the little moon. Hold it in the fixer, I watched the picture clear, and saw how carefully a hand can keep the loved ones near. The mother's glove showed first in gray, the baby's ribbon next, a chair leg, then the father's sleeve, then one small dimpled neck. You rocked the tray from side to side with patience in the red, until the blurred and almost lost came living up instead. I came to fetch a passport frame, that was the reason made, but all my errand thinned away beside that shallow shade. You rinsed the print and held it high, then smiled almost surprised, as if a room could give back time when no one advertised. You pegged it gently to the line, still shining from the bath, and 4 wet faces trembled there like breath upon a path. Hold it in the fixer, let the white turn true, let what nearly slipped from sight return because of you. Hold it in the fixer, plain work under red, yet something in that little room refused to lose the dead. Some things vanish quickly there, a blink, a child, a year, a shoulder moved, a mouth half laughed, a father standing near. But once in a while, through careful dark, what almost went away is given back a sharper edge, and somewhere safe to stay. Till the image knows its name, not as it was meant to be, but saved enough the same. Hold it in the fixer, I think of it tonight, your fingers under red room glass, teaching shadow how to light.
floorboards held the blue. A magnolia breathed below. The room was washed in dew. The canvas waited pale and still. The jars were lined in gray. No phonograph, no footstep yet. Only the edge of day. My silhouette beside the pane looked thinner than the night, as if one sigh could tilt the dark and let in tender light. Before the first brush, the whole hushed room began to glow with something only dawn could know. Before the first brush, a teardrop trembled near my hand, then vanished where it shone. The little saucer by the sink held one last star alone. I had no need of grander signs, no serenade above, for every jar and folded rag seemed full of waking love. The window glass turned warm with gold. The shadows lost their place. A reverie moved through the room and touched my lifted face. No masterpiece had yet begun. No color kissed the white, and still I felt the morning come like velvet over light. Then all at once I understood what quiet beauty does. It waits beside an ordinary thing and makes a world of us. Before the first brush, the whole hushed room began to glow with something only dawn could know. Before the first brush, at last I laid the color down. The blue gave way to gold. Still one small hush remained to bless the moment I could hold. Firelight clung to window glass, the floorboards held the blue. A magnolia breathed below where dawn came slowly through. The canvas waited pale and still, the jars were lined in gray. My silhouette beside the pane looked softer with the day. No phonograph, no footstep yet, no word had touched the air. Only the brush, the folded rag, and morning gathering there. The petal in the water lay white within the little bowl, and made the waking room feel whole. The petal in the water. It must have drifted from the branch and found the sill by chance. A teardrop trembled near my hand, then vanished in its dance. I watched it turn once in the light, so quiet, faint and slow, as if the day had placed a bloom exactly where to go. Rooftops lost their blue. The starlight left the upper panes and let the gold come through. No serenade came through the street, no banner met the sky. Only a flower in rinse water and one awakening sigh. And then I knew how beauty comes, not blaze, nor cry, nor art, but like a little drifting thing that finds its waiting heart. The petal in the water petal in the water. At last I raised the waiting brush. The room grew mild and wide. Still one white petal kept the hush. The morning left inside. The elevator sighed below. The corridor wore gold. One lamp above the numbered doors kept midnight from came up with my shoes in hand to spare the carpet sound. The powder from the ladies' room still faintly lingered round. Your careful goodnight followed me more softly than before. I found my room and stopped with awe. The hush along the floor. I stood so still, the brass in hand, forgot what keys are for. The whole long hallway held its breath. The key grew warm. Below, a trumpet from the lounge came thinly through the wall. Somebody laughed, an ice pail rang, then nothing more at all. I thought perhaps I heard your step return, then lose its way, and all the little distance left grew tender in delay. I stood so still, the brass in hand, forgot what keys are for. The whole long hallway knew before. The key grew warm. Not heartbreak, no, nor anything the novels would have named. Only a lift beneath the ribs where almost love had lain. A hand once offered at the stair, a rap set right, a pause, and one unspoken thing that lived because it never was. I stood so still, the brass in hand, forgot what keys are for, till all the dark around my door became one quiet waiting shore. The key grew warm. At last I turned the little lock and let the lamplight in. But some small part of midnight stayed just where I had been. The window kept the city warm. The curtain rose and fell. One yellow bar from out the hall lay on the floorboard still. You'd come in tired and half undressed, to sleep. One wrist across your forehead there, as if the day ran deep. The room was small as rented things are small in August heat. A picture chair, 2 traveling cases, and 1 soft pair of feet. So I rolled the bath towel tight and laid it to the floor to keep the draft, the light, the talk from reaching anymore. I made a little shore of cloth against the world outside, the towel under the door. Somebody laughed beyond the stairs. A tap kept dripping thin. A woman's heel went past our room. Then nothing else came in. You never stirred except to turn and find me in your sleep. Your hand came searching once for mine and settled there to keep. No vow was spoken in that heat. No moon made silver news. Only a plain white hotel towel and one thing I could do for love when it has had no ease and money's running poor. We'll make a kingdom out of less than most are looking for. So I rolled the bath towel tight and laid it to the seam, and all the hallway with its lamp stopped just outside our dream. The room stayed small, the bed stayed hard, the night stayed hot and sure. Still I have loved few things as much as the towel under the door. By morning it was only cloth beside a scuffed up frame, but all night long it held the dark and let us be the same. The cages woke before the street, their little wires rang, and April stood outside the glass while every yellow throat sang. You swept the seed husks from the shelf with one slow, careful hand, then filled the cup with millet grain and leveled off the sand. The rabbits slept in cedar shreds, the goldfish turned below. A boy pressed pennies to the pane and watched the finches go. You took one cage from near the light, not bright enough to stare, and tied a blue tag to its hook as if a name were there. Blue tag on the canary, small against the morning wire, told no song and yet it seemed to steady all that choir. Blue tag on the canary, I watched your face fingers stay, and felt a common errand turn almost holy for a day. You checked the latch and checked it twice, then moved the perch aside, so nothing sharp would catch a wing when carried on the ride. A woman came with shopping string, a schoolgirl chose a bowl. The bell above the doorway shook and let the sunlight roll. You said he startles if you rush, then lowered down your tone, and all at once that little cage looked less like being owned. No church stood near, no choir wore robes, no candle dressed the air, only sawdust, seed and glass, and someone taking care. Yet there are ways a small life leaves that ask the room to see, a hand that knows how light to hold, what trembles to be free. Blue tag on the canary, tied before the child came in, bright as April's smallest flag beside the painted tin. Blue tag on the canary, not ribbon, prize or claim, only proof that even song was gently given a name. The child went out with both hands still, the bell swung once above, and in the shop one empty hook kept ringing after love. Twilight clung to window glass, the floorboards held the blue, a magnolia sighed below, where dawn was breaking through. The canvas waited pale and still, the jars were lined in gray, no phonograph, no footstep yet, only the edge of day. My silhouette beside the pane looked thinner than before, as if one breath of morning light could open every door. The blue before color kept all the little room in grace, and laid a hush on every place. The blue before color. A teardrop trembled near my hand, then vanished vanished in the shine. The rag, the brush, the wooden chair, all seemed almost divine. The rooftops softened into gold, the shadows thinned away, and one small jar upon the sill began to catch the day. A reverie moved through the room, so quiet, warm, and slow. The starlight left the window glass to let the morning grow. No serenade came through the street, no great command was heard, only the light on common things and one awakening bird. And then I knew how beauty starts, not with a blaze or cry, but with a little tender change in air and wood and sky. The blue before color kept all the little room in grace, and laid a hush on every place. The blue before color. At last I raised the waiting brush, the white began to flower. Still in my heart there softly stayed that blue and fragile hour. The dome was dark before the show, the seats held winter air, and on the desk beside the charts, the little stars lay bare. You stood beneath the lowered sky with chalk upon your sleeve, the brass plates stacked in careful piles, too still to quite believe. A row of coats along the rail gave November to the room, and somewhere in the lobby hall a school bell lost its tune. The children waited 2 doors down, their mittens in a heap, their voices bright enough to wake the painted heavens from sleep. You checked the map, then stopped your hand and frowned, but only slight, for Orion's belt was missing one small borrowed point of white. You found it near the projector base, no bigger than a seed, a white pin fallen from the sky where no one else would heed. You lifted it between 2 nails, then climbed the narrow stair and set it in the velvet dark as if it answered there. A boy outside began to ask if Mars was truly red. The usher hushed the waiting line, the clock moved on ahead. You stepped back once to judge the place, not proud and not for show. And all at once that paper night had somewhere else to go. No one would know the sky had touch, a little mark. The children would have watched the stars and never missed the dark. But there are hands that mend a world before the lights begin, and give the farthest things their names by putting small things in. Orion was missing, only one pale spark, only one quiet point of care against a borrowed dark. Orion was missing. You set the heavens true and made a room of waiting eyes look up because of you. Orion was missing, then found beneath your hand, not moon, not vow, not golden flame, but something made to stand. Orion was missing. I saw the lesson clear. A sky can turn more merciful when someone notices here. The lights went down, the children gasped, the dome began to glow, and in his belt one little star held all the dark in row. Twilight rests upon the wall. The lamp is trimmed and low. The phonograph begins to sing in accents soft and slow. You lift your hand to mine as if by old design. The velvet rug remembers well this little step of thine. A little waltz to close the day in grace, with starlight on your face. A little waltz. The teacups have grown still. The fire has lost its flame. Yet when you smile and murmur, darling, the room is young again. The window keeps one star. The curtains breathe and sigh. A silver hush moves through the room, like music passing by. No grand serenade was needed, no trumpet from afar. Your shoulder near my own tonight outshines the brightest star. A little waltz to close the day in grace, with starlight on your face. A little waltz. The record turns to silence. The lamp grows faint and small. Still one sweet measure lingers on and blesses all the wall. The folding chairs are set in rows, the soup is keeping warm, and under stairs the basement pipes begin their little storm. You stand beside the kitchen shelf with steam along your sleeve, a pencil tucked behind your ear, too busy to believe. The enamel pans are cooling down, the ladles hang in pairs. A stack of plates waits near the door for whoever takes the stairs. You taste the broth and lower salt, then stir it once again, as if the whole cold neighborhood were coming in from rain. The boys bring chairs from Sunday school, the old men move them back. A woman folds the tablecloth along its printed crack. You open up the recipe box and find the card you need, written small in someone's hand for cabbage, cream and seed. You read the corner where it fades, then smile and close your eyes, and set the card back where it lives among the cakes and pies. The card in the recipe box, soft at the edge from years of hands, told more than any silver dish of what a room understands. The card in the recipe box, not merely how much flour to take, but how to feed a winter hour and leave no one awake to ache. No one will praise the pencil mark, the thumbprint near the name, the little cross beside the word that says to lower flame. Yet every supper has a past that stands behind the steam. Somebody's measure, somebody's care, still entering the dream. The card in the recipe box, placed back between the bread and stew, held all the quiet hands before that somehow worked through you. The card in the recipe box, plain as paper, worn and small, yet when you closed the wooden lid, it seemed to bless us all. The supper bell is rung upstairs, the basement fills with feet, and in the box the old card rests, still warm from being read.
The kettle has forgotten steam, the hallway clock speaks low, a phonograph begins to turn where firelight used to glow. You move the mending from the chair, I set the teacups by. The rug lies waiting in the lamplight,
like something warm and shy.
The rug between us
still knows the turn our footsteps choose.
Darling, the room grows young again.
The rug between us,
your silhouette in evening blue falls soft on wall and door.
the old waltz comes in thin and sweet across the polished floor.
One hand upon my shoulder rests,
one sigh becomes a smile,
and all the years between our first
and this seem less a while.
The record hums, the lampshade glows, a spoon gives back a gleam.
Outside the winter keeps the street, inside we keep the dream.
No
Ballroom kept us half so well,
no grand serenade knew
how much one little room can hold when I am here with you. The embers lose their crimson edge, the window takes the night, yet every slow and faithful turn makes plain what time made bright.
the rug between us
Still knows the turn our footsteps choose. Darling, the room grows young again.
the rug
Between us,
the record finds its
final groove, then settles into rest, and starlight leans on window glass where your cheek lay on my chest.